Big exciting news as the push for your second stimulus checks is still underway. Multiple stimulus checks, hazard pay, FPUC retroactive, more checks, bigger checks, and checks on Nancy Pelosi as well. Washington Post checked Nancy Pelosi midday today and said that her claim that there was a deal imminent, quote unquote, imminent, was untrue. Wow, just thank you, Captain Obvious. LALATE will be reporting tomorrow that reports of a change in Nancy Pelosi's hairstyle are also not imminent. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here, you're here, and whatever is imminent is still not so imminent. I really appreciate you for tuning in on a day with exciting, great news across the board. And a question about what is Nancy Pelosi going to do when those 48 hours are gone? Is she going to be gone? Is she going to change her hairstyle? No. But yeah, well, there's always hope for something. Go to the front of this channel, subscribe, because we're going to get through this together. And as I first said, and as now Steve Mnuchin Mark Meadows is now repeating my words, we're going to get to the finish line together. Also, like this video. If you did not catch 28 earlier today, I said that Mark Meadows is not only just wearing the color purple in his ties now, he's actually repeating the lines of me on this channel. So, hey, let's get to it. In this recording, I will be going over what Washington Post said about Nancy Pelosi and why the stock market took a tumble based upon that report. Next, what Mark Meadows was saying about second stimulus today. I touched a little bit about that on 28, but I'm going to carry that more in this video. Next, what Wall Street's now saying that I've been reporting for upwards about a week and a half, the potential of a Biden no stimulus until mid-2021. Fourth, new shocking details. I mean, this is jaw-dropping junk, that Biden's tax rate may be upwards of 65% in some states. Yeah, there's too many zeros in that. Okay. And finally, President Trump said minutes ago he'll take a COVID-19 test before the next debate. The question is whether the test will say whether he's sending out executive orders or not for FPUC and MSC. Boy, what a big day it is. So let's get to the breaking news. The breaking news, as we are here this afternoon, is that Nancy Pelosi's press game is apparently out trumping Mitch McConnell's press game, but Wall Street is about as giddy can be. You're not, because we are informed and we're educated and we know what our focus is, not their focus. Our focus remains multiple stimulus checks. You're owed multiple stimulus checks. They were going to give you multiple stimulus checks in the first stimulus package, took them out, and now, as we sit here in mid-October? 6 months later, they want to what? Give you a $500 watered-down check as your second check, or potentially $500 as your first check. Or even worse, they want you to wait until a Biden win and do a stimulus package in middle of next year and give you $500 for waiting around for 1 year since the pandemic started. If that sounds a little bit hard to believe, it's actually the reality. And where we are today is the following. When the first stimulus package hit, and it was first drafted, it said a stimulus check every month for the month of March, April, and May. At that point, we knew that 3 months of this lockdown was going to occur. We didn't know how many months of lockdown. We didn't know how many months of this pandemic. We didn't even know what the pandemic was. And so that they were correct in saying 3 stimulus checks until they came back to the table and worked on the next stimulus package around May or June. Well, someone that predates this channel in early April or March, said, you know what, those multiple stimulus checks, let's take those out. Don't tell the American people, and we will get to them later. And you know what we'll get to later? We'll get to the extension of your FPUC benefits. Let's have them expire while we're on vacation. That's a really good idea. Have your enhanced unemployment benefits expire while we're on vacation in July, so no one will blame us or even find us. We'll be hiding under the Tahitian villa with a margarita in our hand. And when we get back, guess what we'll do? We won't get to it again either. And that's what's happened with your stimulus checks. They've never gotten to them. Now, we're not alone in this path. We are absolutely not alone, and people have been saying this is not sufficient. Last Friday, Senator DeVos, Representative DeVazio, said, "Hey, I represented senior citizens my entire life, and I represent them now. And one $1,200 stimulus check for a senior citizen since this pandemic started now to October ain't going to cut it, let alone another $1,200 stimulus check. This is not enough for my seniors." He, of course, is writing that COLA advancement bill. He's saying that COLA, the Social Security Administration, wants to increase your COLA by 1.3% next year. The lowest increase, the second lowest increase ever in the history of Social Security. He says you need about 3.5%, but that's not enough. He says you need more stimulus checks. Well, this is not the first time we heard this. In May, in an MSNBC interview, Chris Hayes was just shocked, like his jaw was dropping, and saying, who are these people doing a single $1,200 stimulus check in the first stimulus package? At that time, we were just seeing the onset of this bill, the second stimulus package, and he said, and they want to do a $1,200 stimulus check again? That's not enough. His interviewee was Senator Harris. And during that interview, she said, now the VP nominee with Biden-Harris, said, you know what, Chris, $1,200 doesn't cut it. $1,200 isn't zip. $1,200 doesn't pay anyone's bills for 1 month. And let alone, we are now sitting here in a May interview on MSNBC, and she's like, what the hell is $1,200? People need $2,000, and they need a stimulus check every month, or until the pandemic improves, or until unemployment goes down. Now, I see every single day 5,000 comments that talk about Canada. I see them and I hear you. But the bigger issue is that this country is a first world country. And first world countries around the world have been told by Jerome Powell to put 30 to 45% of their GDP on stimulus. What are we doing? We haven't even put 15%. And the current second stimulus package bill that Nancy Pelosi has put a 2-day deadline on doesn't put much stimulus anywhere. Her stimulus, her $2.2 trillion bill, is actually stimulus. That's a new expression. Stimulus, because it doesn't stimulate anything but the nice pockets of federal employees, because she's giving a lot of raises. Yes, the vast majority of her bill is stimulus because all it does is throw money at people that aren't the consumer, not the American people. You're entitled to a multiple stimulus check. You were entitled to one for the month of April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Guess what? That's 6 months. Well, you would have gotten $12,000 under the Harris-Sanders bill. And you wouldn't be done there either, because now, one, the pandemic has not gone away. It's not going away this year. And two, unemployment is not approved. Unemployment is at its worst level in 33 weeks. So the bottom line is, two leading Democrats, one that is now the VP nominee of this country, said at the time $1,200 is not enough, said that one stimulus check is not enough. And guess what? The leader of the Democratic caucus, is saying to the American people, I'll give you $500 for 6 months. Sorry, it doesn't cut it. Doesn't work. That doesn't even work on a Cutler calculator. Doesn't work. So MSC, the hashtag MSC, is really heating up. It's heating up because of thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of tweets and comments. You know, as I said on, I think it was on Early Mornings LALATE, that when you're Steve Mnuchin or you are a Mark Meadows and you don't have 5 million Twitter followers, you see 10,000 tweets from Purple Power on a given day. You see this. And so what did Mark Meadows say today? He's focused on the finish line. Yeah, the exact words that I use on this channel every day. He says if Nancy Pelosi would be reasonable, she'll find the President of the United States to be reasonable, and will find something, and will get something across the finish line. He doesn't even just say a finish line. He says we'll get across the finish line. The same message that I end almost every broadcast in the last few days on this channel. It's that type of focus that America needs to refocus on. But when the Washington Post, citing sources, said that a deal between Pelosi and Mnuchin were not sounding imminent, the stock market fell 450 and ended down. If you watch me on Early Mornings LALATE and Mornings LALATE, I reported that the stock futures were suggesting the market would end high today. It didn't go that way. And then there's this, a new report out this afternoon that says that the stakes are very high, that under a Biden administration, you will not see a single penny of stimulus into your hand until early, mid 2021. I can't even believe I'm saying this. The report says that you may not see the stimulus until after the inauguration. There's also the possibility that lawmakers will hold off until after the inauguration. You know why that's the case? Because the same CNBC report is suggesting that potentially the Senate, the White House, the House will all go Democratic. Well, guess what all these people that are in there that are losing their jobs will do? Nothing. They'll say, wait to the inauguration. We're packing up our bags and having $12 ice cream on our pension. We'll see you after we leave out on January 1st. And then there's the Biden tax rate. If this could not be even more crazy an afternoon, a new report claims from CNBC that higher earners in New York and California could face a combined federal and state tax rate of 62%. Americans earning less than 400,000 would get a tax cut, but in California, top earners could face 63%. Which would mark as, and who's the analyst in this report? I forgot, I've listed his name. But the analyst side of the report said at 63%, it would be the highest tax rate in nearly 35 years, basically over a generation. Finally, President Trump says he'll take a COVID-19 test before debating Joe Biden later this week. The debate will take place September 29th. The debate will take place later this week, and it will square off on Thursday for the second and final debate. Really fascinating. What's important to understand as we deal with this afternoon is that there is a lot of narratives out there. And if you watched morning's LALATE, you heard me talk about the narratives and the attempt to get oxygen. As we sit here at the 10-minute mark, a couple major things coming up still in this recording. First, Mitch. Second, Nancy. Third, Donald. And finally, the polls. All right, let's go over what's going on with all those things right now. First, Mitch. Mitch has not been able to really commandeer the oxygen level as he would have liked yet, but expect that to heat up tomorrow. The reason why is that Nancy Pelosi's 48-hour threat has apparently sounded really good for press, and she announced it in a strange way that made it sound like, okay, come Tuesday, I'm not answering your phone call. The question is, what is she doing after Tuesday? Is she, just flying away? Is she going to go have $12 ice cream? Is she going to Casino? No, they won't allow her in. Where is she going? What is she doing after Tuesday? Getting a hairstyle change? No, that's definitely out of the case. Figuring out how to give you multiple stimulus checks. This is Nancy Pelosi. Trying to give you... trying to focus on new sentences that repeat chilling, going hungry every 10 seconds? Yes, of course. The funny thing about this is that the minute at which Nancy claims her deadline's over, her deadline, this is like, okay, what deadline? The same day is when Mitch sort of comes in and takes his publicity of the microphone, because on Tuesday, tomorrow, is when Mitch is going to introduce that very strange bill. More about that in a second. And on Wednesday is when he's going to introduce that horrible bill, which no one really cares about, which is very irrelevant. Finally, the president. What is the president doing? The president said, hey, he said it on Friday, he said it on Saturday, he said it this morning. I don't care what the reports claim. I will get GOP support within 2 minutes of any deal with Nancy Pelosi. Finally, Steve Mnuchin. What is Steve Mnuchin doing right now? Much of nothing. Steve Mnuchin hasn't addressed press since that incredible, wonderful press statement, not last Sunday, but the Sunday before that, because he really has not made much progress in Nancy Pelosi. She's the fake narrative. He's rather just avoiding the whole subject matter, not debriefing you on it. During that 1 week of time, he's basically said, okay, we'll come up with some numbers. So he went from 1.8 to 1.5. He came up with more testing and tracing, but since midweek of last week, he's been stuck at 1.85. He hasn't gone to 2. And Nancy Pelosi has been doing this, you're not doing my language right thing. So it's sort of like, what language you want? Yeah, I was going to do a joke, but I'm not going to do that joke right here yet. He's not doing her language. He's like, what language you want to use? You want to use my hands with the language? And so needless to say, there's no progress with Nancy and Steve since about Thursday. There was progress before, and there's no movement with the president because while he'll go to 2 trillion, he hasn't gone to 2 trillion yet. Finally, Mitch. What should you think about tomorrow with Mitch, and what should you think about with Donald with the polls? Donald with the polls is really singularly the most important thing that I talk about on this channel, and that's the 28 recording every day, which is really almost becoming the blockbuster show of this entire channel. 28 is really detailing to you the October surprise. Every election cycle, there's an October surprise. It's usually a scandal. Someone cheated on someone, or someone, bought overpriced ice cream. It's generally a scandal. But October surprises can be positive. And this president's October surprise should be he's sending out multiple stimulus checks. He has $800 billion to send out multiple stimulus checks, and that is enough to send out 2 stimulus checks and another round of FPUC. How does this work? How much money is it, and where does it go? It takes about $300 billion to do one $2,000 stimulus check. So he could do 2 stimulus checks at $600 billion and then have about $200 billion left over. That could be done for another round of FPUC. He doesn't need an executive order for FPUC because he already has one. He just says to that agency, send out the money. He's done this before. He's done this with FEMA, where FEMA had money from hurricanes and fires. And he said, FEMA, you got some money for hurricanes and fires. We're going to use it for unemployment. Oh, we're going to use it for this thing we're going to call LWA, Enhanced Unemployment Benefits. But it's fire money. Well, put a fire under your feet and send it out. And that's what happened. You can do it again also for stimulus checks. The question is when. When will he realize that ultimately nothing else is possible? I reported on 28 that it's very likely, and I probably should have started this recording with this, maybe I'll start the next one, that tomorrow will be the most obvious day to do an executive order, because on tomorrow will be the day at which you can look and you'll hear Nancy Pelosi close her door, because she said she's given a 48-hour deadline. Okay, wait till her deadline expires, wait for her to close the door, and then say, hey, she just closed the door, it's her fault. Guess what, America? I'm saving you. I'm sending out executive orders. You see why you listen to this channel. You see why people say, hey, why aren't you advising him? Why aren't you advising her? Because it's so darn obvious. This is what momentum is, as Sir Loin would say. Momentum, move out of the way, because this is what works. Timing is everything. And with that timing, let me get to some of the 818 comments from yesterday. Also, I'll address more about Mitch's bill tomorrow in McConnell versus Trump coming up 1 hour from now. But it's basically, the second one I'm not worried about. The first one I'm not so sure what's going on. Being Hope. It's like the Truman Show, but without Jim Carrey's character, Tony Ferraro. The only thing that's going to have multiple stimulus checks is people going to be voted out. Ray. She doesn't care. She's a phony. Antonia to Nancy Pelosi. Do you know? Do you know what it's like not having money to pay your rent, to pay your food, to pay your meds? Do you know, Nancy Pelosi, what it feels? Do you know, Mr. President, I'm asking you the same thing. Do any of you have any idea what human suffering is? Living in the USA is now living like a third world country. I'm playing for you. Love you, LALATE. Heart, pray, heart, pray, heart, heart. Thank you. Love Antonia. Rose Donovan. This isn't game. It's all America's lives falling apart. Christine. Jenna. It's the only country that doesn't help their people. BJ. Most children would be lucky to have a place to sleep at this point. Our politicians are playing a game. I hope that all of them are gone on election day. Patricia, Pelosi acts like she's everyone's boss, as always. Cindy, at this point, you have to call it a rescue package. I like that comment, Cindy. Very good comment. Faith Curtis. I think Pelosi's playing little kids' games and her health cards are going to crumble. B. Morris. Mitch is 77, Nancy's 80. Donald's what, 72? At this time, I think term age limits are needed. Sally Warner. Howdy, Purple Power families. Hopefully you're staying strong and I'm keeping my prayers going for you all. See ya. Rosetta. Hey there, LLA. Been watching our time with Nancy Mnuchin. We need to be hitting those feds because they need to save us. Parent level. I can only believe it if it happens soon. What a day it has been. And coming up after this is hazard pay, but big developments on where you can get grants, what's going on with that $10,000 of hazard pay, what's going on with that CDC grant and that EIDL grant, and more. Continuation of check. Next, then after that is McConnell versus Trump. And finally, Pelosi versus Mnuchin. Oh, that's going to be good. As always, go to Fun's channel, subscribe. Subscribe because we're getting to the finish line together, and we'll get there sooner than later. Also, like this video. Coming up next is Hazard Pay. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay alive for more.